All right, so we're back for part 3 of working on our newsletters. Last time we got together, we were inserting a file in here with all of our text that goes into the body of the newsletter. We went ahead and modified our styles and updated them. So the text right here was the normal style that we updated. We changed that so it had justified text right here and 12-point Times New Roman. We went back and applied the heading 2 style to all of our headings in here. We have a bunch of side headings, and we set those up and then modified that style also. Today, we're going to dress this page up a little bit and make it a little more visually appealing and add a little bit more content to this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a page break in here. I'm going to go down where I've got my internal modem, and I'm going to put a page break. I'm just going to press Control plus Enter. Okay, so that moves that down to the next page. Come back up to our first page. Now, this is a long news article right here, and we don't want anybody to get lost, so what we need to do is go to the end of this paragraph and create a blank line. I'm going to change this to right alignment, Control R, and I'm just going to put a little note in here to let everybody know where the article finishes. So, continued on next page. And we'll go ahead and kind of make this a little bit easier to see, or make it more important by making it bold and italic. So now, when they get down here, they'll know that this is no longer sitting here, it's now on the next page. So we're going to start dressing some things up. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to click somewhere in the first paragraph. We're going to use what's called a drop cap. A drop cap is used quite often in magazine articles where you want to emphasize the beginning of the article. And it's pretty easy to do. You just go to Insert. When you get to the Insert tab, on the far right side, you'll find the drop cap button. When you click on that, you've got these different options. We're going to use the dropped option. So just click on that, and now you got this huge W in here. Now we do have a slight problem. Normally drop caps start over at the left edge, and you see we have this space in here. Well, if we look up at our ruler at the top, you'll see that we still have that first line indent getting applied. So I'm going to grab the top of the ruler and drag it over to the left so as to make our normal hourglass over here. So that takes care of that. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to select my text in here, and I'm going to change the font color so it pretty much matches the same color being used for all of our side headings. This way we can kind of keep everything looking nice and orderly. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and create what's called a pull quote. Now, a pull quote is where you want to take a specific piece of text and you want to emphasize it. You want to make sure that everybody notices it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come down in here, this first sentence under signal conversion, we want to make a copy of this. So I'm going to hold down my Control key and click in that sentence. That'll select it. And then I'm going to make a copy of it, Control C. So now that I have my copy, I'll deselect it. We're going to use a text box to emphasize this. So we're still on our Insert tab. If you go to the right, you'll see where it says Text Box. You can click on that. And we got a lot of different options. A lot of these have pre-designed options in here, but that kind of adds a bunch of stuff that we don't necessarily want. So I'm just going to tell it to draw a text box. So I'm going to click on Draw Text Box. You get a little crosshair. I'm going to kind of go to the right, and I want to draw this between these two columns. So I'm just going to click and kind of drag. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll reset this a little bit later. So that puts that in for us. Again, we have that first line indent, so we're going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to paste my text in. So I'm going to press Control V to paste my text in there. Now we're going to treat this kind of like word art. I'm going to go ahead and select the whole text box by clicking on the border of it. And so now any formatting I do will be done to everything inside of there. So let's center the text in there. I'm going to press Control E. And then we want to emphasize this. So I'm going to go back to my Home tab. I'm going to make it bold and italics, kind of like we did before. But I'm also going to bump up the size of the text. Okay? Maybe that's a little bit too much. We'll go with 14 point. And we'll resize this to kind of fit a little bit better. Now, we need to change this because right now it's floating over top of all of our text. So I'm just going to use my Layout Options button here, and I'm going to set it so that it is a square. Now the text will wrap around this. And so we can grab it and kind of drag it around and place it as we want. And you'll notice how the text is kind of moving around behind it. So we have our text in here. Now I want to do one last little thing to kind of really set this off. Right now, if I click off of it, you'll see that you just have like this box, and it looks kind of boring and doesn't look really nice. We're going to dress it up a little bit. So let's go select our text box again. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take the border off of the text box. So go to your Borders button. If you click on that and you look in here, the fifth item down says No Border. So we're going to take the border off of our text box. So if I click off of it, oh, well, that's interesting. Let's try that again. I'm sorry. My fault. Let's go back to the Format tab. Sorry about that. Text boxes are considered shapes. So what we need to do is change the outline of the shape. Got ahead of myself. So let's set this to no outline. There we go. Now we're going to add a border to the text inside the text box. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select my text. And we're going to do our borders just like we did normally. Just go back to the Home tab. We'll go to our Border button. Go down to Borders and Shading. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of continue the same formatting style that we used up at the top in our nameplate. I'm going to set this for a 3-point border. I'm going to change the color to kind of go along the same color scheme. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to add it to the top and to the bottom of my text, like that. And then I'll hit OK. So now we kind of have this all set up, looking kind of nice. Click off. These little bars kind of draw your attention to the text, but they don't get in the way. Okay? And we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of end that little session right now.